Everyone has been talking about the playoff rankings for the last 24 hours. I've posted a couple videos already talking about my opinion on those rankings. One team I haven't spent a whole lot of time going too in depth on has been Miami. They're probably the most controversial team right now when it comes to all the playoff caliber teams. After last night's rankings, the Hurricanes would likely be the first team out on Sunday. Despite having only 2 losses, the committee opted to put a 3-loss team ahead of them. So, is it warranted? Does Miami deserve to be behind Alabama, or are they getting the shaft? But before we get to all that, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Now, I had this entire video ready to go, but Miami quarterback Cam Ward just gave us even more content to talk about, and we're going to get to that first. Ward was on the ACC network after being named the ACC's Player of the Year, and he was asked about the playoff rankings, and safe to say, he didn't hold back. I mean, at the end of the day, the committee, I doubt they watch tape or not. I mean, you can't. I mean, we're a 10-2 team. Not saying Alabama's not a good team, which they are, but let's talk about the points. That's probably the biggest factor, I believe. We've got a top 25 defense, which is actually one of the best defenses in the country. So, on both sides of the ball, we're one of the best teams in the country. You talk about an offense who puts points on the board left and right, whether it's passing, whether it's throwing. We've got 2 great running backs in the backfield, so it's hard to leave that out. We're playing better defenses, in my opinion, than the SEC, so it's just hard. I did what I could. The team, we controlled what we can control. We controlled our own destiny for a lot of the season, and we didn't end up getting the job done. So we know it's all in our hands, and it got taken away from us when we lost. So there's nothing that we can do about it now, but just sit there, be patient, and just try to get an opportunity to play for another game. Now, I didn't watch every snap of Miami football this year, but I did watch a lot of their games, and did Cam Ward just say that the Hurricanes had a top 25 defense in 2024? Did he actually say that not only do they have a top 25 defense, but they have one of the best defenses in the entire country? I mean, Cam, I love you. You're probably going to get Heisman votes, but what are we doing here, my guy? Since their Virginia Tech game earlier in the season, Miami has allowed 34, 38, 45, 31, and 42 points in games. This past weekend, they allowed Syracuse to have 500 total yards. A couple weeks ago when they lost to Georgia Tech, they allowed the Yellow Jackets to run for 300 yards despite not having a quarterback who could actually throw the ball. I know he's not being serious by saying Miami actually has a good defense. I also love that he threw in the fact they're playing better defenses than the SEC is. Now, shout out to Reddit because someone compiled the info quicker than I could, but this doesn't really support Cam Ward's claim. Here are the defensive rankings of Miami's schedule from the NCAA. Florida 91st, Ball State 125th, South Florida 118th, Virginia Tech 59th, Cal 41st, the best defense that Miami faced all year, Louisville 60th, Florida State 87th, Duke 45th, Georgia Tech 47th, Wake Forest 117th, and Syracuse 68th. By comparison, the SEC defenses ranked 3rd, 5th, 16th, 18th, 22nd, 23rd, 32nd, 33rd, 35th, 46th. You get the point. While I do respect Cam Ward having the balls to defend his team and bash everyone in the process, it just makes him look even worse, being pretty much wrong on every single thing that he said. Okay, but let's stay on the topic of Miami. If you watched my video earlier today on Lane Kiffin trashing the playoff committee, you would have seen the tweets that I included in that video. But in case you missed it, I'm going to throw these tweets back up because they're really relevant to the discussion on Miami. So a couple days ago, Dennis Dodd tweeted out this graphic in regards to the Hurricanes. Now for Miami, they're one of only 12 Power 4 teams with 2 losses or less. They have 7 wins against Power 4 teams. They're one of 17 teams to meet that threshold. They're 3-0 versus team strength ranking 1 through 30. They're one of only 5 teams at 3-0 or better. They're 4-0 in non-conference games, 6-0 in home games, 7-0 in blowout games, winning by 14 plus points. And finally, their average scoring margin is 17.8 points, the 9th best in the FBS. So you see that graphic and you're probably thinking to yourself, Miami, they look like a pretty damn good team that is deserving of reaching the college football playoff. Now, Warde Manuel, who was the college football playoff selection committee chair, he was asked last night why Alabama was ranked ahead of Miami in their rankings, and here's what he had to say.
What it came down to is, as we evaluated both teams and looked at how they rank, obviously we think highly of both teams. One's at 11, one's at 12. But what it really came down to is Alabama is 3-1 against current top 25 teams, and Miami is 0-1. Alabama is 6-1 against teams above 500, and Miami's 4-2. Both have had some losses that weren't what they wanted out of those games. But in the last 3 games, Miami has lost twice. And so for us, in evaluating their body of work, we felt that Alabama got the edge over Miami.
So is it really fair? Well, Miami has only one top 25 opponent on their entire schedule, and it was Syracuse, who wasn't even ranked at the time they played each other. The Orange moved into the top 25 because of their win over Miami. Now, the Hurricanes did defeat Florida by 24 points all the way back in week 1. This is the same Florida team that we just saw take down Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago. Outside of that though, nothing really impressive on Miami's resume. They also had that brutal 3-week stretch where they honestly could have lost all 3 games. They got some heavy assistance from the referees in their wins over Virginia Tech and Cal. Then they went back and forth with Louisville before winning by 1 score. Then they lost 2 of their last 3 games. Now, I don't think those are necessarily bad losses. They did lose on the road to Georgia Tech, a team that did win 7 games, but we just saw the Yellow Jackets nearly upset Georgia this past weekend, and they honestly should have taken down the Bulldogs. Plus, Miami just fell on the road to a team in Syracuse that the committee believes is top 25 worthy. So again, they do have 2 losses, 2 in their last 3 games, but I don't think they're necessarily bad losses at all, unlike some of the other teams around him who definitely have some bad losses. Just like we did the other day in my Ole Miss, South Carolina, Alabama video, let's take a look at Miami's advanced numbers and how they compare to the other teams that are in the playoff discussion around them. We'll start with their FPI, which is the Football Power Index. As a reminder, this is a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance going forward. FPI represents how many points above or below average a team is. Their FPI ranks them number 11 in the country, ahead of teams like SMU, South Carolina, and Clemson. However, they rank behind Alabama, Ole Miss, and Indiana. Up next is Miami's strength of record, which reflects the chance that an average top 25 team would have a team's record or better given the schedule. Well, the Hurricanes come in at number 14 on that list, behind Indiana, SMU, Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee. The one team they are ahead in that metric is Ole Miss. When it comes to strength of schedule, you're going to have to scroll down a bit to find Miami, as they're ranked 55th. They're behind Clemson, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Ohio State, Alabama, and South Carolina. However, they are ranked above teams like Oregon, Indiana, and SMU, teams that are all but guaranteed a spot inside the college football playoff. So while Miami's schedule wasn't exactly the best, there are teams that are going to make it to the college football playoff that played easier schedules than Miami did. There's also their SP Plus ranking, where they come in at number 10. Offensively, they actually rank number 1 in the country, but defensively, they rank 39th. So as you can see, the advanced metrics don't really support Miami all that much. They say that Miami should be ranked from the 12 to 15 range. There isn't a metric that stands out that says they are worthy of being a top 10 team in the country. I get having 2 losses compared to 3, but outside of that Florida win all the way back in week 1, they just don't have a great win on the rest of their schedule. Even when the college football playoff was only 4 teams, there was one thing I would consistently say on a week-to-week basis. The point of the college football playoff is to make sure you get the best teams in. If we did this based off record alone, there wouldn't be any point in scheduling tough out-of-conference games in the future, or putting stock into who you beat or who you lose to. A win over the number 1 team would count just as much as a win over a 2-10 team. So I'm fine ranking a 2-loss team over a 1-loss team. and I'm fine ranking a 3-loss team over a 2-loss team. But my personal issue with all this is that South Carolina should be the team that's getting the final spot. At the end of the day, I don't think Miami is really getting all that screwed here. Their resume is gross, and their strength of schedule sucks, and they have lost 2 of their last 3 games. The only reason they find themselves in this situation to begin with is because they've sucked over the last month, and they put themselves into this bad situation. It sucks that you can go 10-2, and that still isn't enough for the college football playoff. But look at my Arizona State Sun Devils. They're 10-2, and they've actually beaten ranked opponents this season while winning 5 consecutive games. Yet they're ranked a number of spots behind Miami, even though they should be more deserving of being ranked higher. Also, what about BYU? They're ranked 18th, and they're also 10-2. They gave number 8 SMU their only loss of the entire season. Their 2 losses came close to an ASU team that's in the Big 12 title game, and they lost by only 4 points to a Kansas team who closed the year as one of the best teams in all of college football. So shouldn't BYU be ranked right around 12 and be in the playoff mix like Miami is? What I do know is Miami is unfortunately going to get left out by the committee on Sunday when they do their final rankings, and everyone is probably going to be pissed over it. Well, almost everyone. I got a feeling Alabama fans aren't going to be too upset when they inevitably get in and probably slide up to the number 9 seed or something like that. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. What are your thoughts on Cam Ward's comments? Do you think he's right, or do you think he's way off? Also, do you think Miami is getting the shaft by the playoff committee? Should they be a top 12 team, or are they where they deserve to be when it comes to the rankings? Whatever your thoughts are on everything I talked about today, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting playoff videos every day leading up to Sunday, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video and you're up to date with the latest playoff news. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and help share this video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.